Welcome to Live Well, Dream Big. I'm Suzanne Monroe, founder of the International Association of Wellness Professionals, where I've been teaching people how to live a life of wellness, tap into their passion, and go for their dreams for over 15 years. I believe living well and dreaming big starts with ourselves. This podcast will show you how to create a healthy, holistic life, empower your mindset, follow your dreams, and make a big impact. Let's dive in right now. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Live Well, Dream Big. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. I'm very excited for today's topic, healing your relationship with money. This is a very juicy episode. I'm talking with Shamika Wallace, who's the founder of Ladies Living Limitless, and she's also an IAWP certified holistic wellness coach. And we're getting into it. Money, the topic that nobody wants to talk about, that you tend to avoid, or maybe you feel very private about, or you think money is bad, or you think money is good. We have so much wrapped up with our feelings around money. And so there's a lot to uncover, and we're getting into it all in this episode. Shamika and I really dive into it, and I love it because Shamika shares her own personal money story, and she also provides some really powerful tips to help you to improve your money mindset right away. So if you enjoy this episode and you want to hear more, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode and share the show with a friend. All right, thanks for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to today's episode on Live Well, Dream Big, healing your relationship with money. Very excited for this topic, and I'm really excited to be here with a special guest, one of our very own IAWP certified holistic wellness coaches, Shamika Wallace. Shamika is the founder of Ladies Living Limitless. She is not only a certified wellness coach, but also a former registered nurse with over 15 years of experience. And she has been steadily building and growing her personal brand and coaching business with one-on-one private coaching, small group coaching, community workshops, and speaking engagements. And her passion for helping others, whether it be as a nurse at the bedside of a patient or as a supportive guide and coach for her clients, is really apparent in her heart-centered mission and vision. I've gotten to know Shamika personally, and I can attest to that as well. And Shamika really loves and adores coaching women from all over to finally see and create the limitless possibilities that are within them once they have the awareness and the meaningful tools they need to overcome their own limiting thoughts and beliefs that have been holding them back all along. Her mantra, you only get one life to live, ladies. So laugh, love, and live life limitless. I love that so much. Welcome, Shamika.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm really glad you're here. I'm so glad we're talking about money today too, because it's really one of those topics that, sometimes we don't want to talk about, or maybe we grew up and our family didn't talk about it. So it's not something we're used to, but today we're getting into it. And before we get too far along, I'd just love to hear a little bit more about you and your story and your journey. Would you start us off there?
Sure. So, like you mentioned, I'm a registered nurse, and I've had kind of the upscale journey from kind of coming from, humble beginnings and a typical, family, which here for me was divorced parents, live with my single mom, although my dad was involved and I saw him all the time. I did have that experience where I had a single mother who worked full time, sometimes two jobs, just to kind of make ends meet. And I did come from a family where it was really that, you go to work, you get your job, you stay there for, 35, 40 years until you retire. And, you work hard, you save your money, and you have that kind of relationship where it's always seeming like you're in survival mode. And so when I got out of high school and decided, I kind of don't want to go down that route. Like, I want to have a career. I want to be able to do more things than I saw my parents do with us and have more things. And so that kind of, I think, got the ball rolling. And so went to nursing school, figured that would be an excellent career. I love to serve. I love to help people. And it was amazing. I was like one of those starving students going to school, totally broke, just like young college student. But once I even got into nursing and started making good money and started, paying off all my debt and just really kind of like starting my savings, I realized that I still had this weird relationship with money. And so, fast forward to deciding to go into holistic wellness coaching, which is kind of another side story of how I got there. But once I started on that journey and started healing, myself from the inside out holistically, that turned into more of a personal growth and development journey, and then a spiritual healing journey. And so it kind of just snowballed. And in that time frame is when I came into some really great teachings about your money mindset and your relationship with money, and how it really does affect kind of everything in your life, especially when you want to start a business.
Mm. Wow. What a story. Like, I mean, it's kind of so interesting to hear, like, where you were as a child, and you go through this kind of typical thing. You go off to college, right? And you don't have a lot of money. And then even though you got to a place where you were debt free and you were earning income and stuff like that, what I hear you saying is that there was still something off with your money. And I find that, that can be true for a lot of us, whether we have a lot of money or we don't have a lot of money. Our money mindset can still be out of balance. So I'm so excited we're kind of getting into this day and today. And I would say money's kind of one of those topics most of us save for those have to moments, right? If there's no urgent need to focus on money, we just probably rather think about something else, right? Like maybe making dinner or doing the laundry or just crossing out the to-do list, right? Other things will always take priority, I think, than really like sitting down and maybe looking at our money or looking at our finances. And it just seems to be something that tends to go to the back burner, or people just avoid really looking at. Why do you think that is? I mean, why is money such a challenging topic for people?
Well, I think, again, a lot of us we each have our own money story. And it doesn't matter whether you grew up kind of in poverty, whether you grew up like middle class, or even if you grew up with an extremely wealthy family. Everybody has a money story, is what I've come to learn. And, usually we have some societal conditions around how we feel about money as well, what we see, what we hear, the stories that we're told. So a lot of us are given things when we are in our childhood from our parents or our grandparents, and we don't even realize that the statements that are being told to us are being put into our subconscious. And so a lot of times that is what we are taking in without even knowing it. And a lot of people don't understand that they have a relationship with money. It is a relationship. And sometimes our relationship with money is going to be different than the next person's. So think of it as like, okay, I have a relationship with my mother. I have a certain way I feel about my mother. I have a certain relationship with my mother. And whether that relationship is quote unquote good or bad, it doesn't matter, because if she goes to church and she talks to her church friends, they have a relationship with her and they feel a certain way about her and they look at her in a certain way. And that's kind of how you can look at the relationship with money. We all kind of have a different perspective and view on it. So it's really important to kind of reflect on that and think about where you stand and where you sit with it, because a lot of times it's just, okay, we feel like we need to make money to survive, to pay our bills, to live, right? That's pretty much the plane that everybody is on. But there's so many more layers, and it goes so much more deeper than that, especially if you want to really experience freedom from feeling an attachment to money, and to understanding your abundance and how you can elevate that in your life.
You said a lot of juicy things there. First of all, we all have a money story. I love that. And I think your analogy there kind of helps to make sense. You're like, oh, we all feel the same way about money. No, we all have a different relationship with it, which is an interesting way. A lot of times you wouldn't think about, okay, relationship with money, that, you don't have a relationship with money. Well, yes, you do. You have a money story. I love that. The other interesting thing I think about money is that it isn't always seen as like a wellness topic, right? To be healthy, you can have a lot of money. You don't have to have a lot of money. It's sort of seems like, oh, that's something else, like a separate topic. But here at the IAWP, as you know, we have our 12 elements of wellness, and finances is one of the key 12 elements. And, we talk about how having a healthy relationship with money is a part of your overall wellness, because if that's out of balance, you're going to see it showing up in these other areas. And I know that many people look at this element kind of like last when it comes to their well-being. Or if you're a holistic wellness coach here listening today too, even with helping others, you're like, oh, we'll do the finances element later. Like we'll cover that last, right? Because it's like, I don't want to get into that with people. And we tend to focus on other things like food and body and mindset and all those other important wellness areas before we really broach into finances. Yet at the same time, healing is not just for our body and our mind and all these other areas. It can also be for this relationship with money that you're talking about. But what does that exactly mean? What does healing your relationship with money mean?
So, healing your relationship with money is going to mean, again, stepping into a place where, number one, you have awareness that you have a relationship with money, that it is a relationship. And sometimes, just like with any other type of relationship, if you have a bad relationship or an estranged relationship or a complicated relationship, sometimes you have to do things to heal that relationship, whether it's with family, children, or what have you. We've all had strained relationships at some point in our life. And so, the same way you would heal that relationship, you need to heal the relationship with your money and your money story and your money mindset. And so a lot of that looks like reflection, awareness, being mindful of, are you happy with where you are with your money story right now? Are you happy when you go, to your bank account? When you look at your bank account, is that what you want? Is that where you are satisfied? Are you getting anxiety and, stress around paying bills? A lot of times, financial issues are one of our number one stressors if you don't have a good and positive relationship with money. Number two, a lot of times the number one stressor in a relationship is going to be finances and money. And so we, like Suzanne said, don't really pay too much attention to finances. We throw it on the back burner and we, pretty much let it be a stressor in our life without doing something about it and just thinking this is the way it is. This is the way it has to be. This is how, my life is going to be. It's always going to be about, I have to pay the bills, and so that's where your mindset comes in, because everything that we do, everything that we think, everything that we say, everything that we put out into the universe is what is going to be directed back at us. So if you don't have a good relationship with money and you have a disdain for money, or you feel like money is evil, or, all the sayings we hear growing up, money doesn't grow on trees, and all that stuff that is conditioned and put into our subconscious from your parents, or maybe even, like I said, if you came from a wealthy family and your parents made a lot of money, but you know what? They weren't around because they were always working, or they were always, off doing something and throwing gifts and money at you to show you love. You're going to have some sort of issue with money in some sort of way. So either way it goes, a lot of times people have this underlying subconscious story that they don't even recognize. And again, that comes and it shows in ways that we don't even think about in our daily lives when it comes to just living, doing things. Are you frugal? Do you spend a lot of money? Are you an overspender? Do you spend money on other people? I heard a story recently, and a gal was saying that her father in particular, would throw these big, huge dinner parties and he would pay for everyone all the time. And she grew up thinking that she had to always pay for everybody. She had to always be that person that was like, no, I got it, I'll pay for you. Always had a hard time letting people pay for her or buy her stuff. And so even just little things like that, where we don't even recognize that it's coming through in how we operate and how we, use our money. And so she would say she would spend money on everybody and wake up the next day looking at her account like, oh, I just blew several $100s, but she felt like that was what she had to do because that was what she was taught, and how she learned. So there's a lot of things that you need to do to heal that part of you so that you can get comfortable, because you don't want to do that and feel bad the next day. You really want to have that good relationship with money, not that push and pull relationship with money.
I love this. I mean, what I hear you saying, there's so much wrapped up in money, right? And oftentimes it comes from our childhood, right? Or our self-worth, or our jobs, or our lifestyle, or what we really desire for ourselves, our challenges. I mean, it's really impacts so much of our life. And yet there's so many layers to it, is what I hear you saying. But we all have this money story. We can start looking at it, but we also might have a lot of hidden beliefs about it too. I think it's important to realize too, that money is neutral. It's not good or bad per se. It's an energy. It's a tool. At least that's how I try to think of it now. Any emotions we have around it are really coming from our beliefs and our experiences, not money itself. Money's just like, here it is, right? So what we think about is really more our own energy toward it. But we have to be willing to look at those things and really look at our mindset if we want to have this more abundant, healthy relationship with money, as you're saying. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do we need to work on our mindset in order to work with money? Like, how is mindset related to money? And what are your thoughts?
Well, I think absolutely mindset is related to everything. And, a lot of times we're living, and I can get a little woo woo here. So forgive me if I do, because
we love it. We love it.
So when it comes to mindset, that's kind of this big, broad term that we hear a lot, especially in this coaching world. But it's very true that where your mindset is kind of what your life is going to mimic and what your life is going to reflect. Because again, like you said, everything is energy. That includes money. And so when you think of money as an energy or as a tool, think of a hammer. When you see a hammer, you just think, oh, there's a tool, right? When we think of money, a lot of times we either think of money as good or bad. That's what most people think. They either have a good, thought and feeling around money, or they have a bad kind of icky thought and feeling around money. And so the same thing with the tool, you want to think of as money, in the same aspect. When you see a tool, you just think it's a tool. You don't say, oh, there's a hammer, it's good or bad. But when you think of it, a hammer can do good or bad. It can break things, it can bust things up, or it can help you fix and build a beautiful home. And so in that aspect, money can be the same way. So money can do good, but money can also be used for bad and evil or what have you. And so you need to really look at where you stand with that thought process and where your mindset is. So again, the number one thing is to do the work and reflect on where you are with your mindset around money. Do the work and think about what you feel like your relationship is right now and what you feel like you were taught. And so there's some exercises and journaling and things like that you can do for that. But that is the number one place to start with healing, just understanding what your relationship is with it. Because if you don't understand what your relationship is with it, it's hard to fix it and to make those changes. And then also your beliefs. And so your beliefs are just, that they're a belief. It doesn't mean that it's the truth. It doesn't mean that it's a fact. A belief is just basically what you have experienced and learned in your lifetime. And so again, it's going to be different than the next person. So are your beliefs holding you back from having limitless abundance? Are your beliefs holding you back from making money in your business? Are your beliefs holding you back from, really understanding that money is for everyone and there's not a limited amount? Sometimes we feel like there's not enough for everyone. I got to go get mine, or, I'm not going to get my share. And so that's some of the things that we've been taught and conditioned to believe and to understand. And so you really have to kind of change that mindset and start doing that perspective shifting so that you can, again, heal that relationship with money and receive all the abundance that's due for you, because we all are entitled to it and it's out there for all of us.
Oh, well, I love it. I love this hammer idea, with the tool. It can be used for good or bad. And like just having that mindset shift around money, I think is an amazing start. And also, like you said, you have to look at this. And what I hear you saying is like, okay, you got to shine a light on this for yourself. And so you can dig deeper, right? So you can look at, what are your own beliefs? And I also love how you said, your beliefs are kind of just that. They aren't something you have to have forever. They came from your experiences, but they can change. And I think a lot of us have beliefs that, okay, and part of it, I'll say this, is like, don't feel bad if you're like, oh no, my money mindset isn't looking that great, or it needs some support, right? Because we weren't really taught to know how to work with money, to think about our money mindset. We also probably weren't shown in our society, like in the movies, for example, most of the bad guys are rich and the good guys are struggling, right? So it's not our fault. We have these kind of constructs. Even in religion, we're told money is the root of all evil, right? So a lot of it is embedded in our culture and our beliefs and what we've been shown and taught. Yet sometimes we kind of take things out of context, right? It's not money itself that's evil. It's what we might do with it if our focus is only on that, right? So I kind of like to think of money not only as a hammer, how you said it, that's awesome, also as a magnifying glass, which you've been talking about as well. It really shows us more of what we have inside us, right? So whatever's already there, money's going to magnify what is inside you already. So if you have poor intentions with money, well, you're going to see those poor intentions on a bigger scale in how you act with money. If you have good intentions, when you have money, you're going to see those good intentions on a bigger scale. So it's not money, it's really what's inside. And unfortunately, though, what we tend to focus on is what's not right in the world sometimes, right? And we see certain things and we're like, oh, we can keep building up those beliefs that we've had for so long, as kind of you said. I'm curious though, because people might be listening today, Shamika, and saying to themselves, okay, I hear you. I should journal about this. I should start looking, bringing some awareness, understanding my own relationship to my money. I don't feel balanced. Others might feel just disconnected to their finances. And they're like, okay, I'm not sure if I need to look at this or not. I'm curious though, how do we know if we need to look at our relationship to money? Like, what does it feel like? Or what did it maybe look like for you when your relationship to money was out of balance? And then you said, okay, this is something I need to look at.
Well, number one, I think everybody should be looking at it. It doesn't matter where you are, what it feels like to you. Again, it's part of wellness. So just like you would look at your eating habits, your exercise, all of that stuff, it needs to be part of your life, whether it's daily or monthly, you need to be looking at it and evaluating it and reflecting on it and, having goals around it and plans around it, because it is part of your, again, everyday life. We all have to deal with money. And like you were saying, Suzanne, sometimes we're taught to be hush hush about money. Sometimes we're taught to feel that we can't speak about it. You don't tell people how much you make. You don't tell people this or that. And so we really have this kind of, secrecy around money. And like you said, it's not taught when we're in school. A lot of times our parents have not had a good relationship with money themselves. So they haven't taught us, how to be comfortable with money, how to be comfortable around money, how to be comfortable having money, and even just basics like financial literacy things. Like when we a lot of times think of money, I know for me, it was either kind of rich or poor. Either you have a lot or you don't. When you have a lot, this is what it looks like: shiny, fancy cars and jewelry and nice clothes. But there's a lot of other things that go along with financial literacy. So, what does your, again, savings account look like? Do we have 3 to 6 months money saved for our family? Do we have life insurance? Do we have things like disability where we have that set up for if something happens to us? Do we have accounts, college funds, and things for our children? So there's a lot of things that go into financial literacy and go into, again, having a good relationship with money. That is part of having a good relationship with money is, what are you investing in? Where is your money going? How are you spending it? How are you saving it? How are you, again, just how is your relationship with money? So I think a lot of that goes into why we need to be looking at it constantly and all the time, because a lot of that matters. And a lot of times people don't have that. A lot of times people don't have that financial literacy aspect where they know what to do with their money. They know how to invest it. They know how to make money for them and work for them instead of them always working for money. And so that's a huge, difference, and a big thing that I see with a lot of people that is a missing gap in between. So kind of, again, that goes with our money mindset. How do we think about money? Are we just thinking it's riches and gold over here and poor and desolate over here? Do we have the financial literacy to know where to put our money to make it work for us and make it expand for us? Do we have thoughts of, if I spend it, how am I going to make it back? And I always have to be on that kind of grind and hustle mode. And so, again, there's so many layers to this, but that's one of the big reasons why it is important to always have, the thoughts about it and not just let it go and not just kind of push it to the side, because the more you push it to the side and ignore it, the more you're going to see that apparent in your financial, story in your life currently and where you're at, and also for the future.
Yeah, and as I was thinking about my money story before our conversation today, I was like, well, let me think a little bit about my money story in preparation. I was thinking a lot about how, I mean, the message that I really heard was, okay, you have to work hard to make money. So that was kind of one thing. It was like, you're going to go on a certain path, you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and all relates to your success really. If you go off of that path, you won't have money. You won't be successful in terms of that. And it was also money was something that we talked about in my family, but it was more of kind of like a serious sit down conversation, right? We're going to look at, finances, or we're going to, look at investing or things like that. And so that was good on one hand because I gained some financial literacy. But for me, my whole relationship around money was like, it has to be done a certain way. It has to be kind of serious. It has to be, you can't take a risk. And over time, I began, that caused some challenges for me, right? As you guys know, you probably heard my story before, right? I really followed a certain path until and I wasn't happy. And I had to say, okay, I'm willing to take this risk, right? And at the same time, I was like, but if I take this risk, am I going to be able to make money, right? So that was always sort of this, this push and pull, as you said before, going on for me as I took that step to take that leap. So that's where that inner work, as you're talking about, becomes so important because you're going to ultimately probably going to go a different direction from maybe what you've been taught in some way. And if you don't work with the money mindset, that might be what kind of subconsciously holds you back from doing those things on one level. I'm curious for you, Shamika, was there kind of a trigger for you where you wanted to make a change when it came to your relationship with money? Like, was there some realization, or what happened exactly?
I think the biggest trigger was actually starting my coaching business. We get really comfortable, and this is, no offense, no shade or anything, but in this culture, in this society, we are conditioned to learn how to go to work, how to punch a clock. Somebody pays you for that. And, when you start your own business, like I'm sure each of you here are planning to maybe do, it really takes you to a different level. And one of my friends always says, new level, new devil. And it's kind of true because you really have to change. So I came from, again, a 15 plus year career in nursing. I was a nursing supervisor. I was making really good money, well into six figures. And I had, everything I thought set in place. But like Suzanne said, I got to a place where, okay, that was fine and dandy. But when I started my new business, it was like this whole new arena of, okay, so now I am responsible for making my own money. I am responsible for, what's going to come in, what's going to go out, investing in myself, investing in my business. And if you want to grow and thrive in your business and your money mindset is not personally where it needs to be, you're never going to be able to grow your business. You're never going to be able to take your business to the next level. You're never going to be able to tell somebody to pay you this certain amount of money if you're not even comfortable with money, right? And so it kind of trickled over. And that was really the trigger for me, was really, like if I want to make this happen, if I want to be successful, I still need to reevaluate where I stand with money, because when I started my business, it was different. It was different than, having 15 years background. I was new at business. I had never started a business, didn't have one, sorry. And so I was like, all right, we got to do this work, And so I started diving into, again, more healing work with myself around my money, because I had a new level to aspire to, and new, and like they say, 5-figure, 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure business, whatever, it's all going to take a new and improved mindset, because it's all a new level of, things.
Yeah. I totally get that. And I totally think that makes sense, right? Because you might kind of heal your money on one level. You're like, hey, I actually figured out how to, get paid and have a great job and, climb the corporate ladder or whatever. And you're like, okay, you healed something on that level. But every time you go to the next level, as you're saying, Shamika, you open up this doorway to actually it's really an opportunity to go deeper and heal even more. But oftentimes the same themes start coming up. So it's like these different layers, right? And for me too, when I was in my corporate job, like I didn't think as much about money because hey, I was able to pay my bills, all was kind of going well. And it wasn't until I started on the path to really creating my own income and having my own business that I got to look at this again, right? And I've had my own journey as well over the years. I know I remember when I first got started in my coaching business, I was like, okay, I got to focus on this, but I'm also, I'm not super great with numbers. So I outsourced my accounting and my bookkeeping, and nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with getting support with that. I still have financial accounting support today. But back then, the mistake I made was outsourcing it and then kind of ignoring it. Oh, somebody else has got this, right? So you can get support, but you have to stay connected and aware and really understanding what's working, especially if you're going to be in business for yourself, because so many of us are focused on healing and serving and helping, right? So we're not like in it for the money. Yet on the same point, you're going into a business, and a business is actually here to make profit. I know that sounds kind of, wow, that's might be a hard pill to swallow, so to speak, right? So we have to balance this heart-centered giving approach with, hey, we also have to be paid for the work that we're doing. Otherwise, we won't be giving. We won't be able to heal and serve at this level. So it's an interesting sort of paradox between these two things. I know for me, one of the big surprises when I finally said, hey, I better start looking at my finances a little closer was that I actually sat down and I looked at my income, and at the end of the year, I was surprised. My income was coming in from a particular thing that I didn't realize that. I was putting all my time and energy into something else. Why? Because that's what I thought I wanted to do, or what I thought was the best thing to do. But really, it was in this other area, right? And in fact, had I not done that and sat down, we wouldn't be here today talking about what we're talking about today and having a holistic wellness coach certification through the IAWP. I was able to end up by looking at my numbers and looking at and getting comfortable with money, and again, getting reconnected to really look and say, oh, what is it that people want? What is it that people need? And how do I actually bring my skills to what actually also makes money too, right? And so we have to do it. And yet it can be very challenging. I know you've talked a lot about journaling and mindset and all these things. And I think like in any relationship, as you said before, Shamika, if you ignore it or you only talk about it when there's a problem, it's probably not going to go very well, right? You have to nurture this relationship. Are there specific steps you took to kind of nurture the relationship or find more joy and purpose with money? I mean, how do people get started?
Well, I think, again, I always say the number one thing is to gain your own personal awareness. There are also things like books, podcasts. You can get a coach. It depends on where you feel like you kind of need to go and what you feel like you need to do. But there's a ton of resources out there. And so sometimes it's just a matter of taking the time and the energy and the steps to go dig a little bit deeper. There's also things like, there's different tools and stuff that I use that, again, may be a little bit woo, but there's tapping, there's hypnotherapy. I always recommend, if you have the opportunity to, with any type of healing, communication is very huge. And so going back to your parents, if you still have that ability to, and talking with them, because a lot of times that is very therapeutic and very healing to kind of get their side of it, to kind of make amends. Sometimes we have to do some forgiveness around this. Like, why did you set me up to feel like this around money? But, having those conversations and just healing that aspect of it, sometimes to release, does a lot of good. And I've done a lot of that with my mother. My father is deceased, but me and my mom have these conversations now, and it's very therapeutic and healing, and even teaching her some things. And so that goes with any type of healing, but with financial healing as well. So don't be afraid to start to talk about it. Another thing that I want you to really, really, really do, and this is really, really what kind of worked for me and just took me kind of to another level. I want you guys to start thinking and being aware and mindful of what you say around money, how you When you're thinking about money, when you're paying your bills, instead of just doing it numb and, doing it with the same emotion and the same feeling, I want you to really tap into that. Really stop and think when you go pay your bills next time, what's coming up for you? Are you feeling anxiety? Is your heart beating a little bit? Are you feeling angry and frustrated? I want you to tap into if you have an argument or a disagreement with your spouse or your partner around money. I want you to think about how you're talking to your kids around money when they ask you for something. What are you telling them? What are you instilling in them? That is the awareness that you really need to tap into to be able to do the healing work. Again, without that awareness and understanding of where you're coming from with it, it's going to be really hard to heal. And we have to get really, really real with ourselves before we can heal anything. And so start to be mindful of when you go to the store, are you looking for all the deals? And it's not to say it's right or wrong, good or bad. It's just that you have an awareness of where you are with your relationship, again, with money. Are you, just frivolously spending? I can't say that word. Or are you, penny pinching and always looking for the deal? And so those are some things you want to look at. You also want to look at, again, like I said in the beginning, are you happy with where you are financially? If you're not, let's do some money mindset work and make some changes, because again, you don't have to be in that situation. And if you've put yourself in a box to say, this is it, this is, where I stand with it, nothing can change, nothing will change. So you have to start opening your mind. You have to start opening your heart to be able to receive. And you have to start understanding, again, abundance and law of attraction. There's, again, so many layers that we can go into that we can't really kind of fit into this hour. But once you start doing that work and diving into that and understanding wholeheartedly that money and abundance is not really from the outside. Money and abundance is already within you. It's an energy exchange. And like Suzanne was saying, especially in this type of business where we're heart-centered and we want to give and we want to coach and we want to do all that. And sometimes we feel bad for charging this amount of money for our coaching or our programs because we feel like we should be giving it away for free. Impact and income, you hear that you want to make an impact, but you also want to make an income. And it's kind of a circular thing. The more income you make, the more impact you can make. And if you feel like that is, think about how you're feeling as I say this. Do you feel like that's greedy? Do you feel like that is icky? Do you feel like you're scared to sell? Do you feel like you're scared to, ask for that money? If those feelings are coming up for you, then you definitely need to do some money mindset work, and that's okay. But understand that that's the cycle. The more money you make, the more income you make, the more impact you can make. And you have to understand that you're a good person. You don't feel like Suzanne's a bad person for, you going to her program and paying her to go to her school and getting the knowledge. And so you're the same way. If you have a good heart and you're coming from a good space and you have good intentions, then there's nothing wrong with that. It's an exchange. I give you something, my energy, my time, my knowledge, my expertise, and you give me the money. And that's simply what it is. And when you can kind of get to that mindset around it and get all the feelings of whether it's good or bad or ugly or evil or icky, then you're going to really have some release. And that is going to bring you further along on your financial journey.
Okay, there was so much goodness there. I'm like, wait, I hope you were taking notes out there. If you're listening to the podcast episode, you're like, wait, go back, pause, because you said so many great things, and maybe I can just reflect and pull out a few of them. I mean, one of the big things too was, this idea that abundance comes from within and the money comes from within. It's not this external thing. And I think that's such a huge point, Shamika, because I think for a long time I thought, abundance equals, what's in your bank account. If you have a lot of money, you're abundant. And what I came to find out is that that's not true. Abundance is actually your mindset, right? You could actually have very little money, and someone on the street who's homeless could actually have an abundant mindset and have no money whatsoever because they believe that they're taken care of. They believe that they're supported and that good is coming to them. conversely, someone who has a lot of money, if you think, oh, here's a rich person, they must be very abundant. They might have a total lack mentality, which would be not abundance. They might have a lack mentality around money, worried that they're going to lose all their money, right? So it's not about the money itself. It's about your energy toward it. I love how you talked about this with abundance being internal. I think that's huge. The other big thing you mentioned was, this idea of going out and talking about it and communicating with people, talking with your parents or those who brought you up, or even, your siblings or whoever that you shared maybe a money relationship with. I think this is huge because oftentimes we'll look at our money story and be like, oh, well, that was kind of their fault. We'll put the blame on them. But the real healing comes from just having the awareness that they were doing the best they could with what they knew then, right? So you can hear where they're coming from, but it doesn't have to be your money story going forward. I mean, you can rewrite your money story, right, Shamika? I mean, is that something that you would say to do? Because we have that opportunity, right? We can get rid of the old and say, okay, what is my new money story going to look like?
Right. You can definitely pivot, just like you can, change your health story. You can change your relationship story with someone. You can change your money relationship, and you can really pivot it around to make it work for you. A couple of other points that I really want to just kind of throw in there is gratitude. If you don't have a practice of gratitude right now, I really, 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 encourage you to develop a gratitude practice. And when I say practice, I mean something that you do daily, weekly, if you can, to express gratitude, because the more gratitude you have for what you already have, the more, you're going to receive. And so again, it's that energy exchange. What you put out is what you're going to get back. When you gripe about everything and complain about your bills and, complain about, money that you have to spend again on your kids or what have you, it's something we all do, and something kind of we all just kind of grow up doing and seeing. I remember my mom, when we go to the store, don't ask me for anything, and so you have to kind of change that. When you pay your bills next time, instead of griping, take a moment and say, you know what? I'm so grateful that I have the money right now to pay for these bills. When you wake up in the morning, the first thing I do before I even open my eyes and get out of bed is I just say, thank you for waking me up to see another beautiful day. Thank you for my health. Whatever it is, little things of gratitude. Some people like to journal it. Some people are into prayer. Some people do it, when they're meditating, whatever works for you. But I encourage you again to have that practice, because that's going to do a couple things. One, it's going to make you realize just how grateful you are, how much abundance you really do have in your life about what really matters. And then also, again, it's going to put out that into the universe, and that's going to come right back to you in certain ways. The other thing is comparison. I just wanted to bring that up, especially with social media. We have a lot of things that we can see now. We can see how everyone's living their life on social media. And so a lot of times what people put on social media is their best life, right? The vacations, the trips, the, nice clothes, the pretty pictures. Make sure you're not falling into that comparison where you're thinking you're not enough, you don't have enough, because you're looking at the next person, or you're looking at somebody's business and maybe they're 10 years in from you, but you're only 2 years in, or you're going through your program and you're thinking, why don't I have that? Why haven't I made it to that level yet? I know that's something I really experienced. I'm going on my 3rd year in business, but the first couple of years that was kind of tough for me. And I had to kind of step back and say, okay, put your head down, put your laser focus on, and you're in your own lane. Be grateful for where you're at, where you started, how far you've come, and, those type of things. So those are just a couple little tips as well as you're on this journey. I wanted to give you guys a really good book as well that kind of helped me. I know, Suzanne, you were asking some of the things. Let me just get the name right here. It's called The Abundance Book. I think it's a really simple title. Yeah, it's The Abundance Book by John Randolph. And that was a really good book for John Randolph Price, The Abundance Book, a really good book for me that I read, and it was referred to me, that really kind of changed a lot of my mindset around abundance and receiving, and, mindset around money.
Well, what a great resource, and so many more tips there too. And I see our live listeners are kind of all like jotting down notes about things. I'm sure there's so much coming through, so many different next steps that people can take. And talk to us a little bit more, Shamika. How are you helping people specifically today as a coach? I know you're working a lot with mindset, and how can we kind of learn more about what you're up to and share with us a little bit about that as well?
So I, coach one-on-one clients, obviously. And again, this is a topic that sometimes, again, is underneath the surface and people don't even really know is something that they need to work on. But as I delve a little deeper sometimes with my clients, again, especially when it comes to stressors and anxieties, and we start talking about that, a lot of times it is financial. A lot of times it is, when it comes to relationships with their spouse or partner, it ends up being because of finances and money differences and things like that. So I've learned that this is a topic, again, that a lot of people, just don't talk about enough, have not had any type of, healing around, have different mindsets all over the place about it and how they feel about it, and just an unawareness of it. And so when I start to dig into this type of work, it really is beneficial in helping people to, just change their mindset, to maybe make some different, changes in their life when it comes to their money. And so I really love that the aha moments that people have that can really just give them those breakthroughs. Another thing is I'm in the community, hopefully now that we're back open, doing workshops. I have done a few virtually as well on this topic. And it's something that I'm really passionate about because it's helped me. It's changed, me personally, as well as my business. And so it is something that I really love to kind of just talk about and teach people on. So a lot of workshops there. And I'm working on now a community and membership program that hopefully in the next couple of months I'll be starting, but we'll be talking about this stuff and all stuff related to healing and personal growth and development and, just mindfulness. I think that's really big, just having people be understanding that they need to be aware. They need to kind of just slow down and really take a look, again, like you said, at all aspects of the wellness wheel. And so we talk a lot about the financial aspect as well, because it's just huge in people's life and they don't realize how big of an impact it is actually making for them.
Well, I love that. And we will post your website and resources and things that you're up to in the show notes underneath this video and the podcast audio as well, so people can kind of learn more. Let's switch gears now for a minute. And we're going to go to our coaches talk back time and open up to our holistic wellness coaches who are joining us live for the recording of this episode. And love to hear from you guys out there, to hear about your questions and your shares and what's coming up for you. So go ahead. If you're out there, you can just raise your hand if you're on video or unmute yourself if you're on the phone, and let's connect and see what's up. This is a great time to ask Shamika any questions as well. Maybe you're struggling with your own money story, or you just have some things you're working through too. This is a great time to kind of dive into that.
Don't be shy. I don't bite.
Let's go over. Yeah, let's go over to Jennifer.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Jennifer.
Hi, Shamika. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say that it really resonated with me today when you brought up that full circle with more money you make, the more impact that you make as well. Going into it, I have, I guess, been thinking as far as what with charging people and that aspect of it. But I really like that mentality of coming from having a good heart, being informed, and you're in that right space, that it is that exchange, and not to have guilt for asking, for money, because it is our livelihood as well. And the more money you do make, the more money the more you can give. And I really like that change of mindset as well, to think of it that way, in a more positive way to help people. So that really was like, okay, this is great. I really needed to hear that this morning. So
that's good. I'm so glad. And, that's big for a lot of people. I mean, it was big for me, to really just be able to be comfortable and understand that, again, when you think about it, and I know everybody has different beliefs, but if you think of a higher power and you think of God and you think of the universe, source, creator, divine, whatever it is that you relate to, they want us to be abundant. They didn't put us here for us to struggle, for us to have stress and anxiety and fear and pain around money and abundance. Like, everything is here for us. And so when you think of it from that matter, that, it's what's out there is for me. And so with your business, with whatever you're desiring to do with your coaching, that is put on your heart and on your soul for a reason. And it is because it is meant for you to do. And so a lot of times we create our own blocks and we create our own limitations. And with our mindset, like Suzanne had mentioned, having a lack and scarce mindset instead of an abundant mindset, and knowing that what we do is powerful and what we do is necessary, especially, after the last year and a half or so that we've had, more than ever, people need wellness. People need, to be healthy. People need to be aligned, mind, body, soul, and spirit, which is one of the things that I really tap into with my coaching. And again, financial, abundance is, like you said, your birthright. So don't be afraid of it. Do not be scared of it.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Shamika. And I see, let's go over to Simarjeet. Hopefully I said your name right. I'll give you a microphone. Hi.
Hi, Suzanne, and
Hi.
hi, Shamika. Yes, you said my name perfectly.
Oh,
thank
good.
you. Yeah. So it's day one for me, guys.
Welcome.
I know. I'm like, wow. I just read about the lab or the workshop, and I thought, okay, let me hop into it. So thank you. I caught a little bit of it. I didn't catch the first part, Shamika, so I'll be listening to the replay. But my question to you is, as a couple, like my husband and I are trying to figure out a way to get a practice to have this discussion around money and what we want to do in the future. Like, do you have any specific ideas or techniques or some sort of a ritual, or what do you recommend for couples to work together on the money mindset and building financial wealth?
I think number one, a lot of times setting aside time every month or every week, whatever works for you, and almost having like a little meeting time. And so that it's steady every month. You say maybe on the first of the month, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk our finances this month. The other thing is, a lot of times people go into relationships again, and you guys each have your own money story. You guys each have your background and upbringing. So I recommend having a conversation or having several conversations around where you guys both grew up, how your money mindset was from your parents, from your generational aspect of it, so that you understand where each person is coming from. A lot of times we put our ideals and our beliefs on other people, and we automatically feel, because the way we feel about it, they should feel about it, or the way we understand it, they should understand it. But in a relationship, it takes two. And so you guys both need to sit down together, have that conversation so that you guys are on the same page of where you each stand. And even if it's different and not the same, at least you have a better understanding of where each of you is coming from and where your thought process and your beliefs stem from. And then you can kind of move together to, for the future. But I recommend having those monthly sit downs. And then I also recommend having those conversations around where your beliefs stem from so that you can get a better understanding. And that's a good place to start.
Thank you, Shamika. That's great.
You're welcome. I want you guys to understand that money can be very fun. And so, have fun with it. I know a lot of times it is a serious topic, or again, it is a stressful or anxiety inducing topic. But when you start to have fun around money, again, that is energy. It's energy that you're putting out. And so there's little things you can do, like one thing that I did in my bank account, I went into my online bank account and I changed all the names of my credit cards and my bank accounts. If you knew you could do that, you can do that. So now when I go in, my savings account is called Lavish and Luxurious Abundance. My checking account is called Lit and Limitless, so you can do fun things like that just put fun energy around money and change that whole dynamic. Maybe when you sit down to pay the bills, put some music on, grab a glass of wine, light a candle or an incense, do something that makes you feel good, that is less stressful. Take a couple deep breaths. We really have the power and control for what we want to experience. And so everything that we do, we create that experience in our life. Don't let it create the experience that you have. Take control over that. So you can do fun and good things around money to change that whole dynamic and that whole relationship again, and the energy around it.
What I just loved about that is everybody who's on the live episode here is like smiling when you said that. Like we're all like, yay, money's fun, right? Like just now we shifted a little bit of our relationship, right? We let go of that tightening. There's sort of this like tightening energy. We have to control money. We just like let that go a little bit. So I think that was very cool to see. Thank you, Shamika. Well, this has been so much fun, so enlightening, so empowering, learning about money today with you, Shamika. I just want to thank you for coming on Live Well, Dream Big and being our special guest today.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. I had so much fun speaking to you guys, and I hope you guys learned at least one thing to take away from today. That's always my goal.
I love that. Take that one thing, take action now. And thank you to everybody who's joined us today. Share with us what your next action step is. We look forward to connecting with you again very soon. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me for today's episode of Live Well, Dream Big. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And I want to invite you to take your next step toward living well and dreaming big by downloading the Live Well, Dream Big lifestyle book. It's the ultimate guide to becoming your best self and living life on your own terms. You can grab your complimentary copy by going to the link in the show notes or heading directly to iawpwellnesscoach.com/guide. That's iawpwellnesscoach.com/guide.